Warwick, a historic town in England, is famous as the birthplace of rugby, a sport with a rich and extensive history that is widely cherished around the globe. This town, with a population of nearly 880,000 people, has witnessed centuries of change and development, preserving its architectural beauty and cultural heritage. In this setting, in 2018, Louise Porton, a young 23-year-old woman, emerged as one of the town's residents. Louise began her journey into motherhood at just 18 years old when she gave birth to her first child. As a single mother, she faced numerous challenges in raising and caring for her two young children alone. Louise's life was anything but easy. She juggled work and parental responsibilities, always striving to secure a stable income to ensure a better future for her children. Despite the hardships, Louise remained resilient and continually exerted effort, hoping to overcome all obstacles to provide a peaceful and happy life for her small family. Throughout her parenting journey, Louise learned to balance the material and emotional needs of her children, a task far from simple, especially when managing everything alone. Her perseverance and never-give-up spirit became an inspiration to those around her and demonstrated that regardless of circumstances, love and steadfastness can create miracles. Louise and Chris Draper welcomed their first child, a lovely little girl named Lexi. Soon after, Lexi joyfully assumed the role of big sister when Louise and Chris had another daughter, whom they named Scarlett. However, the happiness was short-lived as the relationship between Chris and Louise began to show signs of strain. Amidst the crumbling family dynamics, Louise decided to seek new happiness and started a new relationship. Her life turned a new chapter, bringing both hope and new challenges as she faced the task of raising two young children in these changing circumstances. Louise decided to move from Willenhall to Rugby, a decision that severed Chris's contact with his children. He had never even had the chance to meet Scarlett, his second daughter. Meanwhile, Louise started a new relationship with a man who falsely claimed to be Scarlett's father. She disclosed to her new boyfriend that, just like her previous relationship with Chris, she did not believe their current relationship would last long either. This reveals the instability in Louise's personal life and the challenges she faces in building and maintaining healthy relationships. Even under the best circumstances, being a young single mother is always filled with challenges. Therefore, Louise received enthusiastic support from her sister and several family members, helping her take care of her two young children. She and her children lived in an apartment at Beechwood Court, where she strived to create a peaceful home for them. Additionally, Louise worked part-time as a model for various brands and companies, both earning an income and pursuing her passion. This balance not only helped her maintain her career, but also ensured she had valuable time to spend with her children, gradually building a stable and happy life for her small family. Louise utilized social media platforms to promote her services, stating that she was open and approachable for all types of photo sessions, including erotic and glamour modeling. She also indicated her willingness to work for pay or in exchange for services under the pseudonym Lollipop. Additionally, engaging in sexual relations with men was another way Louise earned money, and she let nothing stand in her way in pursuing this path. She informed a man that they were allowed to have sex in the room and used the rest of her body to keep them quiet. As 2017 ended and the new year began, on another occasion, while the girls were sleeping and being watched, she left the apartment and had sex with a man in his car. On January 2, 2018, her eldest daughter Lexi was hospitalized because of difficulty reading. After it was determined that she likely had a respiratory infection, she was discharged from the hospital just 2 days later. Paramedics were called to Park Road on January 4th because Lexi's health had rapidly deteriorated. Paramedic David Woods. Thomas expressed his astonishment at the severity of the child's illness, unable to understand why she was so critically ill. She was discovered lying on her back, and fortunately, thanks to the professionalism, skills, and solid knowledge of the medical team, they were able to quickly perform emergency resuscitation, saving her life. After conducting a series of necessary tests, the medical staff concluded that her symptoms might indicate that she was suffering from a very serious respiratory disease. They described her condition as critical, emphasizing that she needed immediate specialized medical treatment. Louise reported that her daughter had been suffering from seizures. David noticed something unusual. Although Louise appeared sad, she did not exhibit the level of distress one would typically expect from a parent whose young child is severely ill. Once again, the doctors believed that the girl had a lung infection and decided to prescribe additional antibiotics. After assessing her health and determining she was fit enough to leave the hospital, Lexi was discharged on January 15, 2018. Louise Porton was the one who made the emergency call. Just 9 minutes after the call was made, the paramedics arrived at the apartment. As soon as they entered, they noticed the apartment was very cold. Mark Mitchell, a paramedic on duty, stepped into the apartment and immediately announced that they were on the scene. From the bedroom, Louise called out to them saying, "In here." The paramedics promptly went through to the bedroom. They found Lexi lying on the floor next to the bed. Louise explained that she had put Lexi in the bath earlier and then found her in that condition. Unresponsive in bed, Mark attempted to open the girl's airway but found her jaw was very stiff, which was also true for other parts of her body. Signs of rigor mortis had begun to appear, indicating that she had been deceased for some time. Her skin had turned pale and mottled, and her lips had shifted to a pale green color, all signs pointing to a severe and irreversible health condition. He realized that any attempt to resuscitate or revive the girl would be futile. At 12:50 a.m., her time of death was officially determined. Mark was the one who declared this time, and he gently informed Louise that Lexi was no longer alive, and he believed she had actually passed away some time ago. Upon hearing the devastating news, Louise could not contain her emotions and burst into tears, overwhelmed by the grief of her loss. Mark said that Louise cried for less than a minute before calmly walking out of the bedroom. Lexi was wrapped snugly in warm blankets, and Mark gently carried her out, placing her into the ambulance. They quickly transported her to University Hospital Sentry. Throughout the journey, Louise, another paramedic, and a police officer sat silently in the back row of the vehicle, each lost in their own thoughts. The surroundings blurred past the windows as they followed the procession through the dark night. Afterward, the sudden and unexpected death in infants and young children triggered investigation procedures to determine the cause. A post-mortem examination was conducted, and specialist doctors were summoned to understand why the child passed away. Although the natural cause of death could not be identified, the results of the post-mortem are pending. CCTV footage captured the child entering the apartment with Lexi and Scarlett just hours before her passing. In the video, the child appeared cheerful and happy. Losing a child is a pain that many of us cannot even bear to think about, and it's heartbreaking to consider. But Louise's behavior, just one day after Lexi's death, is raising questions. She was using the dating app Meet Me and accepted 41 friend requests. Louise's actions seem to be in stark contrast to the grief one might expect after such a loss. She also used another app, App B, and messaged several men on it. She told one man, "My little girl passed away yesterday." And when he offered his condolences, she simply replied, "It's okay." She also arranged a date with another man. That night she was cold and indifferent when talking about Lexi's death, simply saying, "I'm down to one now." When she arrived at the funeral home to discuss the plans for Lexi's service, she didn't seem like a young mother who had recently experienced such a tragedy. Laughing and joking, she was even FaceTiming a man as investigations into why Lexi had died were carried out. Just 2 days after going to the funeral home for Lexi, and less than 3 weeks after she had died, Louise and Scarlett were moved to a nearby hotel. An emergency call was made on February 1st, 2018. Louise had been driving around Rugby, with her car spotted on Barbie Road, Dunn Church Road, and Russellheim Way. She then stopped at a petrol station to fill up her car. After pulling into Elliott's Retail Park, Louise decided to call 111, the UK's alternative medical service not intended for life-threatening emergencies. She explained that she was in the car with her daughter, Scarlett, who was in her car seat and not breathing. When asked if she could wake Scarlett up, Louise replied that she couldn't. She explained that she had decided to call 111 because she didn't feel her daughter's condition was urgent, despite the fact that she wasn't breathing. When the paramedics found Scarlett lifeless, they inquired about the circumstances, and Louise explained that she had been diagnosed with the flu and her older sister Lexi had passed away 2 weeks prior. Both of Louise's daughters had now passed away. Despite losing both her children within less than 3 weeks, Louise was described as calm and emotionally detached, showing no signs of distress or sorrow. Her demeanor remained distant and cold. When asked about what to do with her daughter's belongings, she merely shrugged indifferently. With both children deceased, it was evident that this was not a tragic coincidence, as doctors could find no natural cause for either of the children's deaths, let alone both. Status updates on Facebook from Louise's mother, Sharon, indicated that their relationship was now incredibly strained and had turned violent. On March 11, 2018, Sharon posted the following: "I really miss you so much, but being called a liar hurts me more than my own daughter punching me last night, knocking me to the floor, and then telling me that I'm not her mother. Thank you, Lou, for hitting me. All I've ever done since my grandkids were born is to stand up for you, so thank you for hitting me." I've always been there for you and never said a bad word about you, so thank you for the punch to my head last night for sticking up for you. But no more. You've really hurt your own mom, so thank you, Lou." Just 9 days after these posts, there would be a major development. On March 20th, 2018, Louise Porton was arrested on suspicion of murdering both her children. The post-mortem results for both females had been released, and they had validated everyone's worst concerns. Scarlett had evidence of prior physical attacks, and there were signs of bleeding in her neck tissue, indicating that there had been physical abuse. Both Lexi and Scarlett had prior injuries, indicating that they may have died from suffocation caused by airway obstruction. Significant pressure was applied to her airway. The news was shocking. Louise Porton had only one prior conviction from when she was 15 years old for wasting police time. Other than that, there was nothing on her. With only one prior conviction for wasting police time, had she now become a double murderer? She denied any wrongdoing and claimed she had no clue why her children had died. However, it was evident that her story wasn't adding up, and the evidence pointed to this not being an accident or tragic coincidence. After being arrested, Louise was released as investigations continued. In response to claims that she was aware of Louise's circumstances, Sharon took to social media to refute these allegations. She stated that people were spreading misinformation about her, and she was adamant that she knew nothing. On March 28, 2018, Louise Porton returned to social media. She changed her profile picture on Facebook and added the caption, "Smile and for haters." 3 months after her arrest, she attempted to sell bags of her deceased daughter's clothes for just $20 on Facebook in June 2018. "My mommy's angels taken from me too soon. You will never be forgotten. R.I.P." She was still maintaining she had nothing to do with their death as the police worked around the clock and continued to build their case against her. She and the evidence they found were disturbing. Louise's former landlady from the property she had lived at in Wyall from August of 2016 to early November 2017 told the police it was very rare that Louise would ever have the children with her. She would do whatever she could to not have them with her. Her landlady said Louise would often become frustrated and irritable with her children and swear at them. She claimed that they would always comply with her instructions and cry, telling them to stop, or she would give them something to cry for. On one occasion, when Lexi threw a fit, her mother grabbed her by the arm and told her to get up from the floor. The police also examined the medical records relating to their deaths and found that, contrary to initial beliefs, Lexi's symptoms when she was first admitted to the hospital were consistent with and the result of deliberate airway obstruction rather than a chest infection. She also posed at various stages of undress. She messaged a photographer and requested money in exchange for sexual acts during a photo shoot. She stated that for $300, he could do anything he wanted. Additionally, she exchanged messages with a security guard she had encountered in an emergency accident, exchanging 80 messages with him. All of this occurred while her daughter was fighting for her life after being resuscitated by paramedics. The police also seized Louise's phone, uncovering more damning evidence. Just 1 day before Lexi's death, she sent a message to a man saying, "I'm really struggling with my 3-year-old daughter being sick from that deadly flu. Doctors telling me she's going to die." After Lexi was discharged on January 4th, there were some concerning Google searches made, including, "Can you die if your nose is blocked and you cover your mouth with tape?" and "How long after drowning can you be resuscitated?" Additionally, before calling emergency services for Lexi, Louise also searched on websites including articles about children revived nearly 2 hours after drowning. But how? And 5 strange phenomena that occur after death. Louise stated that these searches were in no way connected to or had anything to do with her daughter's death. However, evidence continued to accumulate. In messages she sent to various people, she expressed concerns that she might lose Scarlett as well. Nevertheless, CCTV footage from the hotel where they were staying showed Scarlett appearing happy and healthy. On February 1st, Louise sent a message to a man named Patrick via WhatsApp. In the message, she asked Patrick to transfer $30 into her bank account for fuel to help her take her daughter Scarlett to the hospital. She promised to transfer the money back on the following Wednesday. She described Scarlett's condition as unwell and expressed her concern about not wanting to lose another child. Patrick responded to Louise's message by advising her to call an ambulance immediately and not to waste any time. In response, Louise stated that she had already called for an ambulance and was instructed to take Scarlett to the hospital herself. She asked Patrick for assistance and emphasized the urgency as she believed there was no time left for her. Many believe that Louise murdered Scarlett in the hotel room before moving her body to the car, suggesting that when she was caught on CCTV refueling her car, Scarlett was likely already dead or dying in the back seat. However, when questioned by the police, Louise denied the allegation that Scarlett was already dead when she was placed in the car, stating that it was entirely unfounded. In January 2019, a year after Lexi's death, the Crown Prosecution Service approved murder charges against Louise. She appeared in a magistrate's court in Leamington Bar and spoke only to confirm her name, date of birth, and address. She denied the charges and in a prepared statement told the police, "My children were never an inconvenience to me, and I accommodated my lifestyle and personal life around them. I still don't know how my daughter died or what caused it. It is true that life as a single mother was financially difficult, but I never asked anyone for money, and any suggestion that I used my daughter's ill health or her death to make money is wholly inaccurate." Throughout the pre-trial court proceedings, Louise's father faced reprimand from a judge because photographing individuals inside courtrooms is illegal in the United Kingdom. Despite this, Jeffrey, Louise's father, explained that he had taken her picture through the courtroom door, believing it would be permissible. The court decided not to penalize him but expressed, "I believe you have no malicious intent, and this was just an incredibly stupid act." The judge warned Jeffrey, "Take this as a warning, you have had a lucky escape." Additionally, he ordered the deletion of the photos. Finally, in July 2019, it was Louise's turn to face the trial. Before the court, Porton persistently claimed her innocence and denied any responsibility for her children's deaths. She shared that her daughters always brought her joy and that she deeply loved them. "It's not one of the easiest things to do, but it was something I could cope at. They were always giving me something to do. I would take them to places, play parks, and try to give them everything they needed." When asked why she had been engaging in sexually explicit chats and arranging to meet men for sex in exchange for money, she explained that it was because she hadn't received payment from Universal Credit at the time. Prosecutor Oliver Saxby QC remarked that undoubtedly she may have needed some time for herself, but in the context of what later transpired, 2 unexplained deaths consistent with deliberate airway obstruction, it's hard not to draw the conclusion that her actions were related to those tragic events. The conclusion for the defendant is that at times her 2 children got in the way of her doing what she wanted, when she wanted, and with whom she wanted. The overwhelming inference is that Lexi and Scarlett died because someone deliberately interfered with their lives. In the courtroom, David, the paramedic who first tended to Texas on January 4th, stated that only Angeline Porton could have caused the child to inhale the scent. When called to the apartment for the second time, he recalled that Louise seemed to be holding a glass of wine. She said, "That's the paramedic who looked after my Lexi before she passed away. She was almost pleased to see me." Mark, the paramedic who found Scarlett dead in her car seat, also confirmed that she had been deceased for a while before emergency services were called. In court, Louise stated that she struggled with expressing her emotions and forming emotional connections. She mentioned having difficulty articulating her feelings and forming emotional bonds. However, there was no evidence to suggest that she had a medical condition that would justify the charges against her. The court was informed that she would frequently disregard her kids in favor of messaging guys on dating apps. It was then revealed by one of Louise's former acquaintances to a newspaper that she would frequently and routinely leave her children with her father so she could go shopping if they provided the funds. The Google searches and the messages she sent to people, claiming that doctors had told her that her daughter might die when they had said no such thing, and expressing her worries about losing Scarlett when she appeared fine in the CCTV footage, were damning evidence. The fact that she waited hours before calling the emergency services, depriving her children of any chance of being resuscitated or helped, left people horrified. For those present in the courtroom, it was a disturbing and devastating case to listen to. In August 2019, at the Birmingham Crown Court, after 5 hours of testimony during a 5-week trial, all judges found Louise Porton guilty on both counts of murder. She was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 32 years. Mrs. Justice Yip characterized and branded her as evil. She claimed that she had killed each of her daughters in one way or another, only calling the emergency services when she realized they had passed away. She killed her daughters, and only she knows why, at the time of their deaths, I'm sure. Only she knows who survived to cherish Lexi and Scarlett. These innocent little kids were perplexed as to how and why they could have done something so horrible, plainly vulnerable, and should have been able to rely on their mother to care for and protect them. Instead, you took away their childhood. While it may make for compelling headlines, the evidence at trial does not support the claim that your daughters got in the way of your lifestyle. The sad reality is that your daughters did not stop you from pursuing your goals. The most plausible explanation for the deaths of Lexi and Scarlett, based on the evidence, is that their mother chose to end their lives. The judge stated that she believed Lexi's mother, Chris Draper's, efforts to end her life on January 2nd and 4th were the reasons she was hospitalized for respiratory issues. In an impact statement read on behalf of Lexi and Scarlett's father, he said, "Perhaps if social services had listened to me, they would still be alive today. I sit and think day and night, and I can't. You were their mother, expected to care for, protect, and love them. Instead, they were just an inconvenience to you." Meeting Scarlett again makes everything even more heartbreaking. We will miss out on all those special occasions they would have celebrated, from their first day of school, birthdays, getting married, to having children of their own. The only comfort is that Lexi and Scarlett are together. Louise sat with her head bowed. She didn't respond at all, leaning on her hands and staring down at her feet. Warwickshire Detective Superintendent Pete Hill Police stated that he would never be able to comprehend Louise's motive for killing her children. She had lied to friends, family, and professionals on multiple occasions in order to hide her tracks, and she had never truly expressed emotion during the entire investigation. She did exactly the same to her other daughter. I would like to thank the jury. They diligently went through the appalling details of Porton's crimes. They saw through her lies before returning a guilty verdict. Louise Porton is serving her sentence at HMP Boston Hall and will be eligible for parole in January 2051. It has been reported that Louise has been spat at and verbally abused while in prison. In September 2019, the funeral was held in Wara, and their coffins were taken by a horse-drawn carriage. Their father, Chris, paid tribute to them online, saying that they were deeply loved and would never be forgotten. He finished his post saying, "Sleep tight, babies. Daddy's got you. Daddy will always have your back. Sleep tight, love you." Daddy. Following Louise's conviction, her mother Sharon spoke about her daughter. "Something snapped in her head," she said. "She became a monster. My wonderful little girl changed. She's not the happy, loving girl I brought up. I no longer consider her my daughter," she added. "I cannot believe social services didn't do more. They have blood on their hands. They could have done so much more." Louise didn't care about Lexi's death. She didn't give a damn. There should be an inquiry into why they didn't do more. Who has made the decision that everything is okay with Louise's family and that they can be left alone? Scarlett needed to be taken away for her own. Sharon claimed that in the weeks prior to Lexi's passing, numerous people had phoned social services, but nothing had happened. In February 2020, it was reported that 48-year-old Sharon had committed suicide. A spokeswoman for the authorities in West Midlands stated that they were contacted after the discovery of a woman's body at an address in Willenhall. The death is not being investigated as suspicious. The bond between sisters is special and often unbreakable. Lexi and Scarlett should be growing up together and experiencing life with each other. They had so much to contribute and even more to do and see. The one person who should have protected them took all of that away. Taking away opportunities, knowing that they experienced such suffering at the hands of their own mother, is frankly too horrible to think about. One can only hope that as time continues to pass, it will give those who loved Lexi and Scarlett the opportunity to begin to heal.